How's it going, Ram fans? CTV is finally back in action after a lengthy time off. Here's what we have on tap for our first sports show of the semester, which, yes, you guessed it, has finally made the shift to a brand new night. Colorado State Volleyball starts the season 2-0 for the first time in over 5 years, winning convincingly against North Carolina and UC Santa Barbara.
CTV's very own Madeline Davis takes you to the dugout of Coors Field to sit down with Jenny Cavnar, a sports broadcaster who now covers all things Colorado Rockies and is a proud Colorado State alum.
And of course, no CTV sports show would be complete without Out of Pocket, where for our first week back, we'll discuss whether or not CSU has an actual chance to go above 500 in football this season, under, you guessed it, brand new leadership. All of that and so much more on CTV Sports, which starts right now.
As Ella mentioned, Rams Volleyball opened its 2022 campaign red hot, taking care of ACC contender North Carolina swiftly in 4 sets. Although we know the players deserve the credit, they were not the only ones who brought their A-game. Rams fans had just as much energy, capturing the 8th spot of the most attended CSU volleyball events ever. A warm welcome to the CSU Athletics on campus. And as for the game itself, Coach Hobert's squad made quick work of the Tar Heels, though the Rams seemed to relax a little too much in the 3rd set, letting service errors pile up and rob them of an anticipated sweep. The Rams bounced back late, though, following a much-needed timeout that had them down 5. CSU crafted a 15-2 run to close it out, winning the match in 4. Sierra Pritchard and Kennedy Stanford lived up to their preseason All-Mountain West nods, corralling 37 assists and 13 kills respectively. Middle blocker Annie Sullivan also made an impact, notching up 8 kills and 6 blocks. And though fans and players alike wanted to celebrate this crucial victory against a solid program, the Rams had to quickly pivot the following day for yet another solid opponent. Ella, how did Coach Hobert and the crew do in that one?
Yeah, Mike, well, although a doubleheader is not the easiest way to kick off a season, the Rams took that as an opportunity rather than an obstacle. After the Tar Heels went down in an exciting 4 sets on Friday night, so too did the visiting Santa Barbara Gauchos come Saturday. And as you can tell with the final result, Friday's events completely foreshadowed this one, with the Rams took the 1st set without an issue and narrowly pulling away with the 2nd one. But whether the 3rd set just isn't a charm for the Rams or rather a groove they need to work into, we saw them slump in it on both nights. And in this case of the 3rd set curse, passing on the serve was not going as CSU smooth as earlier in the game. Luckily for all of those in attendance at Moby, they did not leave disappointed by the 4th set. Not only was CSU as strong as ever, but the rallies that came with the 4th and final set also lit up Moby. Both sides had highs and lows through the combined 46 points, but the home team pulled through, winning 3 sets to 1. Sierra Pritchard did Sierra Pritchard things once again, racking up 48 assists by the end of the night, and had this to say about the team's performance. Our middles were hitting amazing, and I need to run them more, honestly. I just feel so awesome I have a whole net across the board that I can trust to get a kill. It's not just feeding one horse, it's every single person. 4 Rams managed to come away with double-digit kills and 57 total on the night. Looking at the final stats for this one, you would have guessed it would have ended a lot closer than it did, considering errors matched even and UCSB actually had the Rams beat in blocks and aces. However, the Rams simply overwhelmed the Gauchos offensively up front, having the edge in kills and hitting percentage would prove to be the deciding factor. And if you thought that was it for volleyball, the Rams actually just tipped off against Northern Colorado at Moby a couple minutes ago. Tune into CAC's Closeout with Leah Kakowski on Thursday night to hear whether CSU was able to improve to 3-0 on the young season. Mike, honestly, with not being sure how basketball or football is going to do this year, having a strong start to the volleyball season for these Lady Rams makes me really, really happy.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good time to be a CSU Ram. I mean, the fans that were out there on Friday night, Saturday night, they're definitely excited, definitely being loud in the stadiums.
No, they brought the energy, and I know that was helping those players like Kennedy Stanford, Annie Sullivan, Sierra Pritchard, the ones we see put up those big numbers. I mean, they did incredible, and they absolutely helped get those wins.
Sierra Pritchard is pretty good at that game.
She knows what she's doing.
And moving right along, as you can clearly see with our amazing volleyball team's terrific stats, the roots of greatness at CSU run deep. And yet another one of our alums was just recognized for her talent. Last Friday, Becky Hammon of the Las Vegas Aces was announced the Coach of the Year for the 2022 WNBA season, a prestigious honor, especially in her first season at the helm. Hammon was a star point guard for CSU from 1995 to 1999. But clearly, her talents have not ceased since then, transferring her expertise over to coaching. The Las Vegas Aces were tied for the best record in the whole league and also set their own franchise record for wins along the way. The Aces also led the league in scoring, recording an average of 90.4 points per game. Which brings us to her impressive resume. Hammon coached for 8 years under one of the greatest coaches ever, Greg Popovich, as an assistant coach for the San Antonio Spurs. She broke barriers as a female in the coaching industry and was also the only woman to make it to the final round of a head coaching hiring process back in June of 2021. And now her squad is currently in the semifinals of the WNBA playoffs, battling the Seattle Storm. Down again, the Aces look to roar back to reach a championship series and just maybe have a chance to bring home that ever-so-cherished title. We wish the best of luck to Coach Hammon and the rest of her team, hoping she can add on to that already amazing resume. The Las Vegas front office lucked out with this hiring, which reminds me of another program that hopes to cash in with their brand new hiring. Ella?
Thanks for that one, Mike. Now, if you tuned into CTV last year on the Monday Night Show, or just follow CSU Sports at all, you are probably aware of the much-needed coaching switch for the football program here on campus. Although most are afraid to come out and say that they expect a good team in fear of disappointment, that is exactly what we should be getting out of this big change. If you don't recognize many names when scrolling through this new roster, you're not alone. Along with a new head coach, the Rams also brought in a ton of transfers and, of course, the offensive Fort Air Raid. If all goes well, Ram fans can expect a high-powered passing offense rather than having to hold their breath every time that ball is released. The root of this on-field change is new quarterback Clay Millen and fellow transfer Torrey Horton, an absolute weapon on the outside. At his side will also be Melquan Stovall, combining for a dangerous passing threat. These are but a few examples of why this team could excel, and yet regardless of the talent, it will be hard, if not impossible, to replace Trey McBride. That said, ever wonder what Trey McBride could have been with this guy calling the shots? Our new top dog, Jay Norvell, will now succumb to his much-anticipated glory. But that fate will truly be put to the test early. In just 4 days, the Rams invade the Big House, taking on Big Ten powerhouse and 8th-ranked Michigan. Norvell's track record as a head coach is reputable, standing with a 33-26 career record, including an 8-5 on the last season with the Wolfpack. All new makeups are going to require an adjustment period, but for the sake of CSU faithful, let's hope that change is made sooner rather than later. And with that, Ram fans, it's time for a break.
When we come back, Madeline Davis returns for a special feature on another treasured CSU alum. Stay right here with CTV Channel 11 because you won't want to miss it.
If I could go back and change it all, I would. I think I'm gonna miss you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Maybe it's just the little moments. If I could go back and change it all. If I could go back, I would. But I can't.
Welcome back from the break, Ram fans. My name is Madeline Davis. You may know me from Monday Night Sports last year, or maybe you just know me as that girl on the sidelines. Whatever it is, I am back on CTV Sports as one of your Tuesday night feature reporters. I will be on every other week to share with you a story that I think bears substance. Now, it's no secret that CSU has produced stellar female athletes, from the earlier mentioned Becky Hammon to 6-time Olympic gold medalist Amy Van Dyken. But what you may not know is that CSU has also produced some pretty awesome women broadcasters as well. A couple of weeks ago, I had the pleasure of traveling down to Coors Field to talk to Jenny Cavnar of AT&T Sportsnet about her CSU history and journey to the majors. Madeline Davis with CTV here at Coors Field for an exclusive interview with Jenny Cavnar from the Colorado Rockies. So Jenny, if some people don't know, you are also a fellow CSU Ram, just like me. And you were kind of a big inspiration as to why I chose CSU, because I also want to go into the sports broadcasting field, and like specifically baseball because it's my favorite sport. And you were kind of a big inspiration to me and why I chose it, but I want to know what attracted you to CSU?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Madeline, and really cool to hear that. I mean, I think you go on about your day-to-day life and you just are doing it because you're passionate about something, right? And then all of a sudden when you realize you're inspiring people or their past or their choices and decisions, it's really cool to hear. For me, Colorado State was definitely in our blood. My dad played baseball there back when they had a Division I team, and you know, there was some influence in that regard, but honestly, I thought I was going to go out of state. Like, I grew up in Colorado. It's like, let's see the rest of the country, like what else is out there? And so most of the schools I applied to were all out of state, and I really wanted to play lacrosse, and I wasn't really getting a ton of offers, maybe some Division III looks here and there, but all of a sudden one day I realized that Colorado State is offering me everything that I would want to do. And I knew I wanted to be a sports reporter, but I didn't know necessarily how that would pan out. I really didn't even know much about CTV at the time. It was more like, oh, they have a club lacrosse program I could play. I got into the business school, I can do that. I can root for the football team, which is fun and exciting in the sunny Lubick days. And then I got on campus and started realizing, like, wait, there's like an area for me to practice how to be a sports reporter? Like, this is awesome. So things really started to fall into place once I feel like I got on campus. It was really by luck, or thank goodness God pushing me in a direction saying, like, that's where you should go.
Yeah, so I mean, you mentioned CTV and how you were a part of that. What was your role?
Yeah, so funny story. My good friend Dave Althouse, who is a really big deal in Denver, sports director with one of the local stations, he actually kind of was like, you know, the guy at CTV at the time. And I remember stopping him in the lunchroom freshman year and was like, hey, I know you work at CTV, like, I want to too. And I just remember the look on his face, like, okay, cool, well, show up. You know, and I'm glad I showed up, and he kind of just showed me the ropes. I did a little bit of everything, but the things I remember most was we had ladies night, which was the Thursday night show, and there were two women that were anchoring, and then one that was doing entertainment, and then I did the sports. And so that was a lot of fun. And then I got to host Sports Fest with my good friend Chris Dittmer my senior year. Which was great. I mean, the experience of, you know, getting to host the main sports show and getting to travel with CSU football and really just be the inside person for all the sports teams was great.
So when people think of you, they think of you as kind of, you know, you're this big person, you have this big job, you're very successful, but, you know, you were a college student once, you had to find a first job, and then you had to work your way up. Just talk a little bit about your path to where you are now.
Yeah, it's so funny looking back. Like, I think anyone who's willing to take a path has a passion to do what they want to do. That's what drives you, right? That's your currency. I think especially in what we do in sports media, there's not a lot of high-paying jobs out of the gate, right? The local markets aren't opening the doors being like, here's a great salary, come make a great living. It's more just like, are you willing to sacrifice and do anything to do this? And I really was. I was really hungry for the job. I got really lucky right out of school. I actually got hired by a national network. Their startup called College Sports Television. I was the national sideline reporter doing college football. My first game was BYU at Stanford. It was big, it was awesome, and then all of a sudden it was like my audio didn't work and all these things didn't go right. And then the next week there was a lot of bumps in the road, and then the next week they're like, oh my gosh, we're way over our skis, we over budgeted, we're cutting all these jobs, we're cutting cameras, we're cutting sidelines, we're cutting whatever. So it was like dream job to no job within a month and a half of graduating college. And so I learned a lot of lessons through that. I ended up at a small TV station, smaller market TV station in Flint, Michigan, and just had a great opportunity covering everything from high school sports all the way to college and professional sports. Good variety there. And I think that goes back to my sacrifice. Like, I took a weekend job or a morning job at a golf course just to kind of be able to pay rent while I was there. And luckily, my parents helped me out here and there, but that was kind of my first experience of it, is like, are you really passionate to do this? And I had a chance to coach lacrosse at UCLA, and so I took it. I moved to Los Angeles and tried to stay in TV and tried to do a bunch of other things in lacrosse, and finally, like, it just kept intersecting. It was like, what are you truly passionate about? And the answer was television. And when I finally gave into that, and put everything into that. I got my first job in regional sports in San Diego back in 2007, covering the Padres, and really just kind of grew from there. Didn't even really know that my passion was going to end up in the baseball arena. I grew up with my dad as a longtime high school baseball coach, but you know, every female who I had seen on TV, every representation of doing sports was a college football sideline reporter or an NFL sideline reporter. So that was kind of the direction I initially thought I would set out in.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's hard to think of anything outside of what you know.
Right.
And I mean, you know, if I wouldn't have seen you, I wouldn't have ever thought that this would have been a possible.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's really, I think representation matters so much. Gender, in race, in socioeconomic status, like seeing is believing. And I think when you're able to be someone who's willing to put yourself out there for others to kind of, like I said, look at you and realize, wow, maybe I could do that. Like, that's a huge, huge step in a person's life. Because I did that. When I saw Melissa Stark on Monday Night Football, I was like, I want to do that job. Way out of reach for me at the time, but like, that's all it took.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just that one thing that you know that you want to do, and you're really willing to do anything to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a hunger for it, for sure.
Exactly. So our last question that I have for you is, what is your biggest piece of advice to any young woman who's looking to break into this industry?
Yeah, I think the biggest advice is if you feel like this is what you want to do, be willing to do it. You know, a lot of people aren't willing to move for a job or move multiple times for a job. A lot of people aren't willing to work crazy hours and work nights and weekends. That's when sports happen. They're entertainment-based, you know, jobs. So you have to really be willing to put yourself out there for all of those things. And then be willing to do the work, you know. I think nowadays there's so many social media stars, and you think that life is so easily handed to you because you have a phone and an account. That's not always the case. I think sometimes you really have to work and have to be driven to get that job. And that takes a lot of connections along the way, you know. So I think that's the arm advice for me is network, make those connections, and be genuine in who you are in this business, because a lot of times it comes full circle. I work with people now on the production side that I met when I was in college at CSU, and the fact that we had conversations then, you know, gave me a big edge when I came here, because people remembered who I was, and you know, that I was, you know, hopefully nice, and that's, you know, be true to yourself. And that's the final thing is there's only one you. So the personality you bring to the table, it's cool to watch other people, it's cool to aspire to be other people, but what do you bring that's uniquely you?
Discussing with Cavnar both about her CSU Ram experience and her ongoing one as a woman in this industry was one of the coolest things that I have ever done. And this was only a small snippet of the talk we had. So if you are interested in watching the full interview, you will be able to find it on our YouTube channel immediately following tonight's show. But don't go quite yet, Ram fans. When we return, we will be bringing back Out of Pocket to CTV Sports with some new heated takes. You won't want to miss it.
Living with someone you don't know on the other side of the wall is hard, especially if you don't know how to be a good roommate. The first thing that you'll want to do to be a good roommate is make sure that you always stay quiet. Be considerate of others when using common spaces and appliances.
Hey buddy, what you doing?
I'm just gonna need like 40 minutes. Be respectful of your roommate's privacy.
Ugh, my bad.
Finally, make sure that you clean up after yourself. Oh, fresh toothbrush.
Have you seen my toothbrush?
Follow these tips to get along with your roommates and your landlord.
What's up, Ram fans? Welcome back from the break and to, yes, our first Out of Pocket of the semester. Let's get right into it.
Now, one of the big themes for the week with us traveling to Michigan very soon is how is this football team going to hold up against the Mountain West this year? And now, while I know what my opinion is, I'm curious what you guys think as to where they're going to end up in that conference. Middle of the pack, top dog, or like what we saw last year?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that I have incredibly high expectations just because I know what they're coming from. And it's really hard. It's really hard to go from basically as bad as you can be to like good. But I definitely have higher expectations than I did last year. I would put them at about 5-7. I think they have a good chance of winning at least their first 2 home games, and then a couple games in conference play. I think they'll definitely beat New Mexico. I mean, they've never lost to New Mexico. If they lose, it's going to be really, really bad and embarrassing.
That would be rough.
Like
and Vanderbilt all over again.
Don't get me started on the Vanderbilt game. That one was rough. And then I think, San Jose State, and I think they'll take the border war. But besides that, and I feel like that's a pretty reasonable. I don't know about you guys, but
Mike, what do you think?
I think I'm an odd man out here, but I'm going to go to over. I'm going to go 7-5. I think you got Norvell. He had a really good season last year with the Nevada. So I think he'll give us something better than we did last year.
I like your enthusiasm. I like that. I like the positive outlook.
Yeah.
I wish I could have that enthusiasm, but unfortunately, I just don't want to be disappointed. A year is a short period of time for a coach to come in, bring new players, and create a whole new culture to completely turn a team around. Now, I agree that in the upcoming years with Jay Norvell and these new players that he brought along, we could see a great football team. But I just don't think this year is the year where we're going to go above 500. I think we could win those games that we haven't lost. New Mexico, I think we can take Wyoming. They just lost pretty bad to Illinois the other day, and Illinois is not really a top team right now either.
We do get the home field advantage on that
exactly.
one, too, which is huge.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. Students really show up, bring the energy for that game, and that's a lot different than what we're used to with students. They don't usually come out for these football games. So I'm hoping that makes a big difference.
I'm really excited to see what the first home game is going to be like, just because one, there are so many freshmen and they've never been to a football game, so they're all going to show up. And two, there's just so much talk and excitement surrounding the team because it is this fresh start. And I mean, not only is Jay Norvell new, but almost the entire team is new. And so
first string at least.
Yeah, and so it's just it's gonna be fun and exciting, and I think that we're really going to have a good environment, which based on previous CSU events, we obviously saw it in volleyball, especially against UNC. CSU is a tough place to play when students are engaged.
Yes, 100%. I mean, that energy rattles me, and I'm not even on the court or the field.
I know. It's crazy. It's going to be, I think it's going to be a really fun time. I'm excited for the season, which is strange for me to say because I've never been excited about football in my life. But I am definitely quite excited about the season. I'm just excited to really see the culture surrounding CSU football grow.
I think the big thing that we're going to see here is the change in quarterback. I don't think we weren't bad last year, but I think with the new quarterback, the new coach, new whole system, I think you can see a lot of change in a whole team in their record.
Absolutely. What we were really lacking last year, at least in my opinion, was that secure throwing offense. We were scared to throw the ball, and when we did, it didn't always work out so hot. So I think if Millen can make those passes and actually connect them for yardage, that would be incredible.
Honestly, the throwing issue, I don't even think that was much of a Todd Centeo issue as it was a Steve Adazio issue.
Not at all.
I think it was all Steve Adazio knew how to do was run the ball.
Yeah. That's the only play he knew how to call. That's it.
Literally.
That and how to spike the ball at the wrong moment.
How to get down the field to score a field goal. That's all he was good at. Anyway.
And well, Rams, that's all the sports news we've got for you tonight. But don't worry, we'll have so much more where that came from over the course of the fall. Make sure you tune in tomorrow night for the return of CTV Geeks to your airwaves. And thank you all so much for joining us here at CTV Sports. We really hope you enjoy your night. We really hope you enjoy the long-awaited return of college football this weekend. We'll see how the Rams can keep it close up in Ann Arbor. And in any event, have a great rest of your night. We'll see you next week.